It's May 22nd, 2013, and you're listening to another episode of
Bites Over Bagel!
Fantastic! It's Chicago's favorite tech morning show. With me in the studio, as always, is one Miss Heather Brown.
I'm wide awake.
One Mr. Beretta Mackey.
Good morning!
Everyone's favorite nemesis, one Mr. Dave Seidler. Yeah.
What you want?
Yeah.
Interesting morning.
I'm your host, John Osler, and we got another great episode for you today. In today's show, we're featuring
John Tolva.
CTO of Chicago.
It's a great interview. Definitely stay tuned for that. Also, today we're doing another Chicago Tech Startup Madness, but we'll say it again in a minute. We got a lot of shows, so we're going to get on to it. The title of today's episode is
Open Data Dreamweaver.
Today's show is brought to you by...
Are you a Ruby on Rails developer, talented UX engineer, or simply passionate about open source technology?
Yeah.
Well, Innova is a growing e-commerce company who is always looking for top tech talent to join us in all fields. To learn more, check us out, innova.com, and click Careers. That's ENOVA.com, and click Careers.
It's now that time of the show we call Chicago
Tech
Start up madness!
Brett, why don't you kick us off for you?
Yes, indeed. Transit Chatter app is next. All competition must leave the train after Transit Chatter. Is that what trains shall next? I don't know. But anyway, my startup this week is Transit Chatter app for iPhone and Android. What does it do? Well, it makes taking the CTA an experience rather than a droll roll through the city from point A to point B. So besides functioning like a traditional transit app, it's giving you CTA bus and train arrivals and alerts, lets you chat anonymously with other travelers on your line about travel updates, unfamiliar odors, and general observations, all the while receiving hyperlocal offers on deals happening nearby each stop along the way. I'm talking deals on foods, events, retail, getting your nails did. And oh, you don't need a deal, Mr. Moneybags? Well, how about a little edumacation? Transit Chatter feeds you a nice, well-balanced diet of history on architectural jewels that you more or less blow right by on the way to your workplace every day. So this is it! This is the transit revolution, Techaros! It's like this. You gotta hop on the red line at North and Clybourne and get to the Jackson stop by 9 a.m. to meet some trader named Blaine who wants to sprinkle cash all over your new biz idea. So you pop open Transit Chatter, lock down your ideal train time, and roll to the tracks just as the door opens. You're feeling like the king of the Clybourne stop. All hail, or at least don't spit on me, crazies. Don't you close that app, though. Oh, hell no. Hop on the red line chat room. Oh, yeah, overly audible headphone boy has something clever to say about old bag lady Brown over there spitting sunflower seeds in her purse. And why wouldn't you want to chime in? What kind of sunflower seeds is she eating? All that interacting can make a king thirsty. Oh, booyah! Generic Joe's Coffee's got a deal on a triple gigolo soy latte at your stop. Pop off, get your caffeine fix, and while you're walking to collect your 50 G's, look up because Transit Chatter just told you there's a faceless statue of the Roman god statue Ceres sitting on top of the board of the trade. Why? I don't really know. But download the app and ride the train for fools, because Transit Chatter's going to tell you. Now, you know, people haven't had this much fun on the train since the days when you could blast a buffalo with a rifle out the window of a moving passenger train from Philly to San Francisco. Now, we all know that didn't fare too well for those buffalo. And now that's where I'm going to draw the line, because using Transit Chatter is going to end up pretty tip-top for all you commuters out there. Some things on the horizon include being able to tell you what train car is least packed, or if you should wait for the next bus because the one coming is packed like a 1950s veal barn. So that's what I got. Samuel Pro, co-founder of Transit Chatter, has some serious plans for this app. And they're also Moxie nominated for Best Civic App in the City. So vote them up, y'all, but vote here first at Transit Chatter. All aboard!
I was like, where the fuck is this coming from?
He was going out the side of his mouth. Going, gigolos. Gigolos.
You want a gigolo soy latte? I'm just trying to understand what's going on. Oh, man.
Okay, Dave.
We really all should
Dave
just...
always gets to follow Brett.
Whoa.
My head hurts severely.
Just turn it on right now.
My head is just
It's on. It's
out.
rolling. All right, Dave. Holy crap. Let's go.
Wow.
We all should just resign now, I mean.
If there's ever a reason to get video for this,
God,
we
we
need it
gotta call.
for Brett's.
Second City. Come. Got a Mr. Mackey.
All right, well, I got a startup called Meet Advisors.
Okay.
I do not have a auction house rant like Brett just went on. Meet Advisors was created. Oh, let me start this over.
Oh, come on.
I have Meet Advisors. Check them out at meetadvisors.com. It is a place for entrepreneurs to go and get their questions answered. You have a legal question, you have a question on business development, you have a question on marketing, venture capital, or real estate, really, anything. Head on over to Meet Advisors. They have curated, legit advisors ready to answer your questions and consult with you. You can have private conversations with them. You can connect with them. You're not going to LinkedIn and asking people for free advice. This is a legit place to get your questions answered. Adam Friedman's main goal with starting this company was to avoid startup mistakes. So before you make a mistake, you might want to head on over to Meet Advisors and get any question you want answered. They are not only in Chicago and Illinois, they are all over the country. You have a question and you are living in Iowa, well, they got people that can answer your questions in Iowa. Pretty legit, pretty legit. They also have a forum and a blog promoting startups and entrepreneurs. I highly, highly advise you check these guys out. There's really no reason not to go there. If you have a question, head on over to meetadvisors.com. Cannot say enough good things about them. Check it out. And you can check them out at meetadvisors.com or at meetadvisors.
All right, Heather, what you got?
All right, boys, may I get a drum roll, please? I'm singing in the rain. Wait, is it raining? Is it snowing? Is it gonna be sunny? I don't know. Well, ladies and gents, you can go on to weatherist.com. They are a weather service that tracks the accuracy of weather forecasters. They use, I know what you want. You ain't never going to be wrong again. You are never going to be wrong again. They use all the forecast data and accuracy calculations to then generate something they call the most probable forecast. Pretty legit. Think about all these sources curated to give you the best deets that you could find. And what's cool is that if you sign up and register, you can submit your own forecast, and they look at the legitness of it. It's not like they just,
So theoretically, I can be
whatever.
the number one weatherman in Chicago.
Tough call. But
If you're accurate.
it's a good chance. But it's pretty legit. So they're in beta right now in 10 cities across the country. But Dave Chung, the founder, said that they are going to be rolling out soon to all zip codes across America.
Ciao, Tom Skillen.
So check them out and vote for @Weatherist. What you want? What you got, John? What you got,
80s,
girl?
man.
I'm representing Seat Sync.
What is that?
Seat Sync. Has anyone ever gone to one of these places, StubHub or something like that, got tickets?
Yeah.
For one, it's usually pretty expensive. Number two, they take a nice deep chunk of the money. They're like, you know what?
We got to get all your money in our
You want those
pocket.
tickets? We're taking like 25% for, being awesome. No, not so much. SeatSync is here to save lives, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got tickets to a game, if you need tickets to a game, they offer a free, that's Free, free marketplace for you to do that exchange. There's got a built-in chat. There's a Android and iPhone app. So picture this for a minute. You're outside the Cubs game, half hammered, looking for tickets into the bleachers, and all you got is a bunch of guys with beards walking around you trying to get $100. Don't even worry about that, folks. Go onto the app, find the best deals, and make the exchange near will call. So you guys got to go check out this app. Go to the iTunes store. Go to the Android Play Store. Get this app. It's free. And right now, the The business model is completely free and open, but eventually they're going to allow you to pay for tickets over the app. So if you're sitting in the office, you can make that exchange and do it a little more conveniently. But it's a great setup. John and Graham are killing it right now. And get on there and sell and buy your sports or your,
Concert.
concert.
Do they sell concert and dance tickets?
Yes.
Any kind of tickets?
Not any kind. Not any kind.
Caveat.
But check it out. Check it out. And that's at Seat Sync. So to vote, all you have to do is tweet at one of these startups with the hashtag Chicago Tech Startup Madness. And if you go to bitesofbagels.com, we made it real easy to do this. Basically hit vote, and it creates that tweet for you, and you can send it out. Good Lord, we have good tech here.
No problem. And you can retweet as well. That is
Retweet
allowed.
works.
We've had questions.
It's true. So the voting continues, and this concludes week 3 of Chicago
Tech.
Start up!
Madness!
Today's coffee is brought to you by Bow Truss. Check them out at bowtruss.com.
Are you hungry? Well, turns out today's bagels are brought to you by NYC Bagel Deli Catering. They got some good bagels. They got some good sandwiches. They got some good cream cheese. They got what you want. So you got to head over there today.
Today's feature interview is with John Tolva. He is the Chief Technology Officer of Chicago. Ooh. Welcome to the show, John.
Big deal.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. So let's get started by talking about your background. How did you become the CTO of Chicago?
Well, it was a role that didn't exist before Mayor Emanuel came in. When he became chief of staff to the president, he and the president and the advisors in the Office of Science and Technology Policy said, we need a federal CTO and a federal CIO. That didn't exist either. So they had a couple years of that kind of policy role overseeing all the departments that had their own technology shops and seeing the successes that brought, things like data.gov. So it was pretty obvious that he wanted to kind of replicate that here. The city of Chicago has always had, or for a long time, has had a CIO that did the kind of operational, keeping the city's systems running. But what they wanted was some sort of policy-focused mayor's office level, so with some purview over the sister agencies as well, to advise the mayor on various things. And so I was at IBM at the time working in their Smarter Cities group, so doing data analytics for mayors around the world. I actually bumped into him at an L stop. Do you remember during during the campaign?
Yeah.
You're shaking hands everywhere.
He was. It was Paulina. It was December. The sun wasn't even up. It was freezing. And maybe this is just my own sort of romanticization of it, but I don't think there was anybody else in the station. It was just like
Just walk to each other and met.
Dreamweaver was playing.
Yeah.
Yes, open arms. A tear running down the
Exactly.
CTA worker's face. I said, what do you think of open data? And he said, you mean like transparency initiatives like data.gov? And I said, yes, but actually for making efficiency improvements and actually using it as a foundation for economic development. Which he seemed intrigued by. And then my train came and I left. I thought, that's how you used your time with Raul Emanuel.
Is that the first time you met him?
Yeah.
First time.
So
Okay.
you got right into it.
Did you
Start talking
Did you
shop.
write your number? Did you write your
Just
number
slip
on
it
the
to
train
him.
window?
No. He went in the reader and said like misconnection.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I knew a few people on the campaign, and they invited me to come in and talk about open data and analytics just to the campaign as a thing. And, I said, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that for any candidate that asks. He was the only one who did. And that was that until the transition, when they asked me to be part of the big volunteer corps that put together the various initiatives in the transition, one of which was to write this job description. And I modeled it very self-consciously on the federal CTO. It made all the sense in the world. And we created another position which was unique at the time. It's since been copied in some other cities, called Chief Data Officer, which was really the head of our analytics work, but also the sort of agent of cultural change in government for data-driven decision-making, which is sort of a no-brainer in corporate America. That's how it's done. Fairly new in government thinking, to be very quantified about the systems that you're managing and to create policy that flows from what the data shows. There's since been a chief data officer made in Philadelphia, I think maybe Boston. So it's an idea that's catching on.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's, and then they asked me to do it. And
And you were like, sure.
well, no, actually, I guess I was, naive in thinking that I would do my civic duty in the transition and then continue on with a job that I loved, and to this day I love at IBM. But it's when someone like the mayor of Chicago asks you to do something, and I'm from here and I love it here, and I was never here when I was working for IBM in a global role, couldn't pass it up.
That's great. I was asking these guys earlier, and this might just be my ignorance to not having done enough research, but are you the first CTO of any city? Like,
No,
is this
no, there are other
thing?
cities
Okay.
that have that. They do different things though. Like there are people in other cities that do what I do, but they have
Right.
totally different titles.
Gotcha.
There are people. It's more common to have a CIO.
Okay.
In other cities, but no, not the first.
Who's your biggest arch nemesis
Ooh.
of another CTO?
I mean, hard-pressing questions here,
Yeah.
John.
It's funny the kind of friendly competition that cities have between one another.
yeah.
I mean, it isn't like. It isn't like corporations, but there is competition for sure.
Yeah. Austin, you hate.
You really don't
CTO.
have to answer
He's taking
this.
the bait. This is awesome.
We rely on each other so much more than you might think. In the sharing of best practices, in the sharing of actual code. Most of what we do in-house is open source. In the sharing of analytics algorithms, and just in helping, oftentimes it's us versus the federal government in the sense that, if it's not being solved, and it usually isn't, in Washington, D.C., it's up to the mayors, really. That's where the buck stops. And so we are friendly more often than not because, we have to present a unified front in the face of, let's say, the end of stimulus funding for broadband training. Okay, so we all face that problem. What are we going to do now with these digital literacy programs? How do we keep them going? So,
What type of technologies, web technologies, are you guys working in right now? You mentioned open source.
yeah, so we kind of made a conscious decision to not be the end user developer shop. We don't design interfaces necessarily. Let me explain that. One is the website was redesigned about a year and a half before Mayor Manuel came on board, and we can have a conversation about that if you want. But what we really decided is we would be a platform. Except in very rare cases that I can describe to you, we would let others build the interface on top of it, on top of the API. So if you think about Bus Tracker and Train Tracker, there's no official CTA app for that. It's a robustly documented API that then, has spawned all kinds of innovations. Some for free, some for fee, and we've mostly done that with our open data portal and our APIs. So like Open 311, this is something in the last year, so that anybody with a smartphone or not, can either text it or take a photo of a pothole. So really, that's a philosophical decision that I think was the right one because, when you put an official app out, for one, the government's never going to be as innovative as the private sector or nimble in coming up with new uses for it. But the other thing is it sort of inhibits individual developers. Like, well, there's an official app. Why should I put one out?
Sure.
Now we have done some stuff ourselves. Like 2 winters ago, we were kind of racing Mother Nature to get a plow tracking app out on the web. So we because that had to be done by the first snowfall, we took that in house. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. We really haven't done a ton on our website. That is on the list. But we've really been focusing on providing the raw materials to the community to build, hundreds of apps. Everything from an application that alerts you the night before that your block's going to be swept, so you don't get a ticket, those sorts of things. And that really is how we've approached this. It's like there's this old 90s notion of e-government. It's like, I can pay my parking ticket online, which is not all that much less of a pain in the ass than mailing in it. It's electrifying an old process,
Sure.
a broken process. we're more interested in the kinds of things we can put out there, data normally, that prevents you from getting a ticket in the first place.
So you mentioned Open 311. Can you talk about that a little bit more? I know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of people know a little bit about it, but
Yeah,
we'd love to hear it from you.
311 is one of the most important systems in the city, and it sounds totally mundane, but if you think about it as a kind of index or pulse of what people care about, forget about whether the city can actually do what they're asking for. About 60% of calls to 311 aren't for service requests; they're for information. So, and they're all geolocated, of course. So and there's millions of calls. So at the block level, it really does give you a picture of what is needed. And then when you start, or what a block cares about, and then you map that against other things like crime or business licenses, you can really start to see patterns. Well, the problem is most of the systems that underlie these call centers are old legacy systems, proprietary, and so it's been difficult to offer that up as a platform. And it's very ripe. It's a form of, I guess you could say, positive NIMBYism, right? Like, I don't care about the city until there's a pothole or a sinkhole in my yard, right? Now I care about the city, and you want to enable them to do something like that. Well, what the mayor has been a supporter of Open 311, which is a way of providing a sort of abstracted layer above the variety of legacy proprietary systems, such that it's a standard, so that any app developer could write to that and not care about what's underneath it. If you know sort of open transit data, it's somewhat analogous to something called GTFS, which is Google's transit specification, and it's what enabled this sort of explosion of transit apps. So the mayor said, I want a kind of a FedEx-style view of my service request. If you've ever called 311, it's a phone call, and then it's completed when you see that it's completed. Right. You don't know where it's going in the city, internally. So we worked with Code for America to wrap our instance of our CSR in Open 311, and then to extend it. So we conform to the spec, but the service tracker, it's called, which is the FedEx style thing, is exclusive here. It's open. It's in GitHub, but I mean, we're the only city that has it. So you get a number, no matter what you do. You can text it and you can call it in, and you get this tracking number, and then you see where it is. And oftentimes it does jump around inside the city. A sinkhole is the water department. A pothole is Department of Transportation. And then you get an email when it's complete. So, we're trying to cut down on the number of calls that come in. We're trying to provide a better customer experience. It's what is the user experience of the city of Chicago is something that we ask ourselves, and you start at the pain points, and that's one of them. So that's Open 311. Yeah,
Cool.
That's awesome. Cool.
So what are the biggest challenges, I guess, with building technology and just technology in Chicago in general?
Well, I think our challenge is the same challenge that entrepreneurs and companies find here is, the critical mass of talent hasn't reached critical mass yet. Developers are still out there, but and designers, one of our campaigns here, one of our initiatives is called Think Chicago, and it started with the first 2 Ideas Weeks, where we had panels and kind of a concerted outreach to students, basically saying, there's a lot of opportunity here in technology. Don't flee to the coasts. You don't have to. Mm-hmm. If you want to, you can. But did you know? And then the mayor took a bunch of CEOs down to U of I.
Yeah.
Talked to thousands of students, and this year we're doing it with Lollapalooza in conjunction with Lollapalooza.
Oh,
so 100 students get all 3-day passes, backstage passes, the works. And but before that, so the sort of bait. That's the bait.
It's got to be the bait.
Right. That's the bait. Is a series of panels with our kind of sort of technology superstars here, sort of one-on-one kind of speed dating with companies, and they have to apply for this. It's like a college essay, basically. So that is a challenge, though, and I guess more broadly, it's changing the brand of Chicago, changing the public perception. The mayor is not at all kidding when he says he wants this to be wants us to be the sole South Korea of North America. And that's why we're doing our sort of broadband challenge with high-speed infrastructure. But it's U of I, the U of I College of Computer Science, generates more computer science graduates than the next 4 schools behind it. You know,
Wow.
it's incredible. Now, many of them leave, but many of them come here, and it's just not what people think of when they think of Chicago, and we're trying to change that.
So what does the future look like? We want to know what awesome ideas.
Like an hour from now, or 100
Sure,
years from now?
hour from now,
No,
next
I
week.
like 6 months.
You know, 6 months.
Yeah.
What do you think?
What's going on?
Well, I think we will, in the not too distant future, think that it was quaint that we got excited about doing government-y things in front of a computer. Especially at the city level, you experience the city and interact with its services out there. I mean, not typically in your house or your business. And I think, especially with the rise of wireless networks, the the sort of mobile culture, which the PC era really is dead, and then all the networked objects that are you probably don't think of as networked objects, but are in the public way. You're only just starting to see them. There's some kiosks around. You're going to see bus shelters, I should say, become more technologized and responsive. Public bike share is just a couple months away, and every single one of those bikes and every single one of those stations is a network endpoint that no one's done anything with, right? The public way now is becoming a platform like our data portal is, that people can build stuff on. So, I really do see the emergence of a kind of responsive city, where that's how you procure services. That's how you interact, whether it's, you ever seen those the actual bus signs, and there's a SMS short code on those? Yeah. Not many people know about that, but if you don't have a smartphone, you can just text that number. It's unique for each stop, and then returns. It's very low tech, but conceptually I like that, because that notion that you're querying a public object. Now imagine that in a more high tech standpoint, and you start to think about there are pieces of information that only make sense right at the moment I'm asking for it, where I'm asking for it. And if I went 100 feet that way, it would be irrelevant. That's the kind of sort of just in time layer of informatics on the city that I think we're going to see shortly.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it's exciting. It should be exciting for firms like yours, because that's a totally untapped, or uncharted world of user experience, because it actually brings together the user experience of the built environment, how we navigate sidewalks and things like that. But, most of the people downtown during the day are doing 2 things at once. There's this kind of digital overlay, whether it's a map or something else, and the real world. And we need to bring those 2 communities together. And you're half of it, and you and your peer companies are half of it. But the big, sort of multinational architecture firms, most of whom are here, are the other half of it.
Yeah.
What's the best way for companies like ours to get ahead of what's coming and know what types of things you guys are trying to solve with what technologies? Like, how do we get ahead of it?
So specifically the city of Chicago, what we're...
Yeah, you can talk about Chicago.
So we realize that the vision of the mayor and the various initiatives that we have going on, some of which are with sister agencies, some of which aren't, are kind of all over the place. So we've done 2 things. One is we've got a site called digital.cityofchicago.org where it all lives. That's where the developer resources are. That's where our initiatives are, all our social media accounts. But what might be more useful for you is we have a kind of action plan coming out. It's a 3-year action plan. It'll be out in the next month, ebook and printed, with I think 5 pillars. So digital inclusion, infrastructure, economic development, civic innovation, and efficient and effective government. And it lays out our vision, what we want. Some initiatives are in flight, some of them aren't. And it's for everybody. It's not just for small businesses. It's for the nonprofit sector. It's for the foundations in Chicago to say, this is the mayor's priorities. We may want to look at our funding strategy, so that it supports those things. So I'll have an answer for you shortly, all packaged up.
That's great.
Can I just ask a personal, I want to know question?
Oh boy.
Cell number.
Not like personal, but as an artist, are you doing anything with like I guess not even nonprofits, but like the creatives out there with technology and different art groups, and like, are you working with that department? And if so,
Yeah.
what are you guys doing? Like, what's big in the scene there?
So it's called DK. Sorry, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. We are doing some things that I can't tell you about, but
Secrets.
because they're going to be that awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you one example. You know the Bloomingdale Trail. Are you familiar with that? It's an earthen freight line that runs from Humboldt Park to the river. You've gone under it.
Yeah.
And it's a little lower than the High Line in New York City, and it's not metalwork either. It sort of blends in with the parks around it in a way that the High Line doesn't. So that is getting done. That is being built. I mean, they're starting to redo it. We think of it in sections, and one section is specifically about, let's just say, technology-assisted public art, or assisted is the wrong word, but public art that's technologized, and that's going to be up there.
Well,
so
that's cool.
That is neat.
It is because it's such a unique. It's a linear park basically that is above everything else, and it links neighborhoods together in a way that there aren't too many things that cross all those boundaries, and that's one of the reasons that we're using art up there, because it's one of the sort of languages that does cross ethnic and neighborhood boundaries.
That's cool.
We're doing a bunch with music and technology.
Nice.
That I can't go into too much detail on, but well, Lollapalooza is actually one of the things that they get to do is one-on-ones with the producers and the sort of the people that actually run the lights and all that stuff. But we're working on some other things too.
Dun, dun, dun. He's nervous. It's,
Me?
So,
just kidding.
so now it's time for the most important question of the interview. What is your favorite bagel, and how do you like it prepared?
Asiago,
Ooh,
Yeah.
good choice.
toasted, obviously.
Is that obvious?
It is. You gotta, melt the cheese.
Yeah, yeah.
You do.
Yeah, I guess you do.
I don't take chances with the cream cheese.
I would agree.
Don't
do it.
The flavor is going to be is in the bagel. When I'll go with light cream cheese, but regular cream cheese. I can't stand like strawberry cream. It's just like,
Roasted veggie,
Ugh.
cinnamon. I don't know. Cool. So where can people find out more?
I would go to digital.cityofchicago.org. That's where most of the information is.
Nice.
Well, John, thanks again for your time and coming on the show. We're very excited to have you and
Sure.
to consider the future. All of us played SimCity 2000, so we all felt like this could be the future now that there's an official CTO of Chicago.
SimCity did inspire a generation of urban planners. It's no doubt.
Cool. Thanks for your time.
Yep. Thanks.
Filling in the gaps is the smooth sounds of Bevel. Check them out at bevel.org or on bitesoverbagels.com.
And that concludes episode 14 of
Bites Over Bagels! Well, look at you!
Tune into the show next week where we'll have
Emerson Sparts, CEO and founder of Sparts.
check out bitesoverbagels.com where we've got the Chicago Tech Startup Madness bracket. You can vote for
At Transit Chatter.
At Meet Advisors.
At Weatherist.
and at SeatSync. So go there to check that out. There's also voting for week 2 still going on. Week 1 is now closed. Sorry, suckers. And in addition to that, you can check us out on the Facebook, Twitters, and the Instagrams. Feeling good? Feeling
good.
We'll see you next week. Have a good morning.
Tolva Town.